In F1 news today, the Ollie Bearmann hype train continues, with Jolyon Palmer alluding to the difficulty that comes with transitioning from F2 to F1. And Jolyon, of course, speaks from personal experience. There's G's, there's downforce, there's braking power. All of these are much more to contend with. And Bearmann at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, the Jeddah Corniche circuit, did that with aplomb, finishing ultimately in P7. Bravo, sir. But apparently, even hot prospects such as Ollie Bearmann can fail their driving test first time. Ollie rectified that mistake, however, second time round. And in other news, McLaren are looking to build on their early season success, looking to bring their first upgrade of any sort of materiality as soon as race 6 or 7. That notwithstanding, Messrs Norris and Piastri are still complaining over the same deficiencies and handling ineptitudes as they did last season, being the car's ability to carry minimum speed through low speed turns and its low top end. Whilst Messrs Verstappen and Hamilton carried 332 and 3 kilometers an hour through the speed trap in Jeddah, McLaren were as near as makes no difference 10 kilometers slower. It's not good enough. Quite literally driving to survive. Andrea Seidel chimed in saying they've got a few minor things to bring to Australia and hopefully for Japan too, but ultimately these will only bring milliseconds, not the tenths that they're looking for. And then hopefully, continues Stella, race 6 or race 7 will be bringing in major upgrades. They'll be making a difference. And Stella emphasises the point that at this stage of the design cycle, you're not going to find 5/10. The margins, they're too fine. The learning curve more plateaued now. Stella continues, optimization may be worth up to 1/10, but it's not like you can find any magic. I think it's very much a matter of upgrades and adaptation to the track. No kidding, Sherlock. And with silly season already having taken full flight, McLaren might want to expedite for that learning curve, lest they want Messrs Norris and Piastri to look elsewhere. Mercedes, say, or Red Bull even. Zach Brown, Andrea Stella, your move, chaps. And the news about the rules for 2026, an anticipated downside of the wheel size from 18s to 16s has been scrapped. Because not for no reason, many F1 aficionados and fans have complained ad infinitum about the burgeoning size and weight of the cars. In 2024, to be sure, they're much less agile, much less nimble. By extension, then, that means there's much less overtaking to be done, much less racy. The change from 13 inches to 18 inches was made in 2022 to better align with the desired aesthetic, bigger, sexier wheels. But the downsize from 18s to 16s is something that Pirelli aren't too keen of, by virtue of the fact that they'd have to recalibrate their processes in time for the 2025 testing program. That's a lot to do in a very short space of time. And with a view to get away from all the madness and disappointment of the first 2 races for Mercedes, Lewis has been cited extending his altruistic social justice activities by visiting schools in Malaysia. And this only a few weeks after Rebecca Clancy writes an article praising Lewis for his kind-heartedness and his kind-mannered way. Rebecca, in chronicling her time as one of the only female journalists in the F1 paddock, had this to say about the 7-time champ. Lewis was always very polite and always looked you straight in your eyes when responding to your questions. Some say the way that Hamilton comports both inside the cockpit and outside in his everyday endeavours is worthy of exponentially more praise than even his 7 championships. And they might be right. And that feel-good story, sadly for all parties concerned, is juxtaposed with more doom and gloom from the Silver Arrows. Andrew Shovlin on the latest Mercedes debrief saying that they're picking through not only the data from Jeddah, but Bahrain too, and as well they might. Shove says Mercedes are conjuring up a plan of attack for free practice in Melbourne. There's a lot of work, Shove continued, going on in the aerodynamics and vehicle dynamics departments. We're trying to design some experiments for Melbourne that will hopefully give us some direction that's good for performance. And whilst we're all acutely aware of the fact that sporting dynasties never last forever, one can't help but feel that it's a sadder state of affairs at Mercedes than anybody would have expected, because due to the poor correlation between the sim and real life, these guys don't know where they are. They haven't got a Scoobies. The word experimentation in and of itself gives me pause for for thought. Throwing darts at the wall at this point, hoping for a bullseye. And in other facts and stat related news, it's been 9 years to the day when one Max Verstappen and one Carlos Sainz Jr. made their debuts in 2015's Australian Grand Prix. Between them, they might go on to win just a few races, those two. Who'd have thunk it? And Gunther Steiner has written a very introspective, very reflective article on F1.com saying ultimately that for his tenure at Haas, he stayed too long. Since walking away, says the former Haas team boss, he's gotten clarity. While you're there, however, at the coalface, you're in denial. You think you can do it, said Steiner, but you cannot. Even more pertinently still, Steiner continues, whilst I was there, you could fight for 7th or 8th with what we had. But what you couldn't do is fight for podiums without the same weapons as what those guys had. Doing that in the long term isn't what I wanted to do in life. I don't want to be 7th again, says Steiner. I want to be able to fight, to battle at the front. I would come back to F1, says Steiner, but it would have to be the right project this time. More damning words about Gene Haas you will never hear. Because up until this point, it had only been speculation that Gunther Steiner had brought a multi-million-pound sponsor to Gene Haas's door. In return for that, however, he wanted shares, an additional investment in the team. Gene Haas, though being Gene Haas, rejected that offer on both counts. And the rest, they say, is history. And in the aftermath of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Kevin Magnussen is still coming in for a lot of praise on the back of what's been termed a defensive masterclass. Having received a 10-second penalty on track for being more than a tad clumsy in his brand of automated pugilism. The Dane went on to hold up those behind him to the tune of 20 seconds in just over 10 laps, with a view to building a free pit stop for his teammate Nico Hülkenberg. Bravo, sir. And in other news, the Christian Horner saga rumbles on, as the BBC's Andrew Benson writes that the complainant is set to launch her appeal against Red Bull's decision to exonerate Horner, in turn dismissing her complaint. The woman who accused the Red Bull team principal of inappropriate and controlling behaviour was last week suspended from her position. On hiring a new legal team, she will request that Red Bull reconsider that decision. Per the BBC's report, grounds for dismissal were dishonesty. In and amongst all the politicking and disenchantment at the balls that are red, Horner had apparently made best efforts to ensure that his revenge was exacted. That is, at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, dismiss Helmut Marko. One 3-time champion, Max Verstappen, however, voiced his discontent. The Dutchman indeed was instrumental in ensuring that Helmut Marko, his mentor, consultant for Red Bull GmbH, stayed put. Loyalty, some say, isn't dead yet. And Helmut Marko will be next ever present at the Japanese Grand Prix. Oh, the humanity. And finally, let's take a second to remember the man, the myth, the legend that is race director, the goatiest one of them all, Charlie Whiting. On today, the 5th anniversary of your passing, we miss you now more than ever.